A year ago, a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively.
We have breaking news here. President Biden has announced he will stand down from the race.
President Joe Biden has just announced that he is dropping out of the 2024 presidential race.
And we have some breaking news as President Joe Biden has just announced that he is dropping out of the 2024 presidential race. This happening just moments ago. You are taking a look at the letter that he has just issued.
But what a moment in U.S. history. President Joe Biden officially dropping out of the 2024 race for the White House this afternoon, ending his bid for re-election after a disastrous debate performance against Donald Trump, one that revealed his infirmity. Yes, mental, also physical, something he, his team, and a compliant, dishonest media have been denying and telling us not to believe for years now.
In one of the most monumental political implosions in American history, President Biden has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. The decision came weeks after a disastrous debate performance triggered a wave of panic among fellow Democrats.
We just got a statement from former President Donald Trump. I'm going to read the entire thing Rachel has posted to his Truth Social account. It reads, quote, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including the doctors and the media, knew that he wasn't capable of being president, and he wasn't. And now look what he's done to our country with millions of people coming across our border, totally unchecked, unvetted, many from prisons, mental institutions, and a number of terrorists." He goes on to say, "We will suffer greatly because of his presidency, but we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly." Trump goes on to end the statement, "Make America Great Again," of course.
Yeah, I've got it, Wolf. We do have the first public statement from Vice President Kamala Harris in the aftermath of President Biden dropping out of the 2024 race. She says that she was honored to have received President Biden's endorsement and intends to earn and win the nomination for the presidency. This, of course, is the first time that we are hearing from him. We did report earlier that President Biden and Vice President Harris did speak on the phone earlier today. That is not surprising. Just a little bit more from the Vice President's statement here. She says, "I am honored to have the president's endorsement and my intention is to earn and win this nomination."
I just spoke with former President Donald Trump on the phone. I asked the former president about his reaction to the news. He said that it's a shock to the country. It's a shock to the country, but he believes it's good for the country to see President Biden decide to step aside. He believes that President Biden was pressured out of the race. I asked him if he's willing to debate Vice President Harris. He said, "I'm not sure she is going to be the Democratic nominee." He's waiting to see how the Democratic race emerges. He has not made any statement, he said, or conclusion about who the Democratic nominee will be, but he is thinking through the race. I asked him, will this change how you proceed with your own presidential campaign? He said, absolutely not. This is about policies. She carries, if she's the nominee or anyone else carries, the Biden record. He said to me in CBS News, he is running against the Biden administration, whether it's Vice President Harris or not. He expressed, in a sense, not sympathy for President Biden in any way, but he, as a political observer, believes that the Democrats took out one of their own with this pressure campaign. And he said that he, at this point, is just waiting to see what emerges in the Democratic Party. He said, "I am going to run against what he called the worst presidential administration in history." He believed, in his view, that President Biden's not up for the job. So he said, quote, to CBS News just now, that it's good for the country that he's getting out. But he said this is a total shock to the country to have a president forced out by his own party. And he kept insisting the race continues as is in his view.
is, does Kamala Harris, in fact, end up taking the top of the ticket? If she does, who ends up as her running mate? And if she does not, who else could be in the mix? And there is a slew of names that have been widely speculated about ever since the pressure started to build after that first presidential debate at the end of June. We're talking about people like Gavin Newsom, like Gretchen Whitmer, like Josh Shapiro, like Andy Beshear, like Mark Kelly.
President Joe Biden just dropped out of the presidential race. But there are some really strange things happening related to this announcement that nobody is telling us. Let's talk about them, and then I'll share some of my own thoughts about all of this. First, Biden announced that he was dropping out of the presidential race on X, formerly known as Twitter, which is a pretty weird way of announcing something as significant as this. Bill Ackman posted, "One would think that a letter to the American people from the president announcing his decision to step aside would not be signed using a digital signature and would be accompanied by a photo op and a scheduled conference in the morning that followed. Instead, we have a digitally signed letter, released on the president's X account, an account we know that is run by a staffer, no photo, and no live scheduled address to the American people. All of this makes me wonder if this is actually a decision that Joe made himself, or if somebody else basically made this decision for him. Second, Biden endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him as the presidential nominee, and Kamala has formally accepted Biden's endorsement, writing on X, "On behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as President of the United States and for his decades of service to our country. I am honored to have the President's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination." Third, both Bill and Hillary Clinton have also endorsed Kamala Harris to replace Joe Biden as the presidential nominee. Fourth, in an ominous turn, however, Barack Obama did not endorse Kamala Harris, writing, "We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges." A lot of people are saying that Barack Obama is and always has been the true leader and controller of the Democratic Party, even though Joe Biden was technically the president of the United States. And when Obama dropped his support for Joe Biden staying in the race, that was basically the beginning of the end for Biden. Fifth, AOC said this about what Democrats are discussing in the back rooms.
And I'm going to say what a lot of these folks aren't saying. I'm just going to say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm going to say that because if they're going to come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not going to be fully honest, I'm going to be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket.
So it looks like there are a lot of Democrats who actually do not want Kamala Harris to replace Joe Biden as the new Democratic presidential nominee. Sixth, watch what Jack Posobiec says about how strange the situation is.
Look, she said it exactly right. She said it exactly right. This was a coup. This was a takedown of the Democrat process. This was something that was done in the back rooms and shady deals. By the way, how are you going to call Donald Trump a threat to democracy now? How are you going to call Donald Trump the greatest threat to democracy when you guys just iced your own nominee in front of the whole world? OK, it wasn't Donald Trump wasn't the one who got taken out. It was Joe Biden who was taken out. And he was taken out by the elites of his own party. And they did it in front of everyone. They did it worse than Kristi Noem did to her dog. And so we saw this. Now you're not going to be able to put it back anymore. And so the things that Vivek has been saying, the things that Mike Pence has been saying about how we've all been saying that you're controlled by an oligarchy, that all of these things are connected behind the scenes, that there are power brokers that have direct control over our politicians. It's all open now. It's all completely open. Well, but Donald Trump is not the threat to democracy. This machine is.
This is what's so crazy about what's happening right now. Basically, the elites within the Democratic Party forced Joe Biden to step down as the Democrat presidential nominee, invalidating the votes of everyone who voted for him in the primary. And now they're basically going to install whoever they want to be the new Democrat presidential nominee. This really does seem like a coup, and an extreme abuse of the democratic system we have here in this country. And what Jack said at the end there is pretty interesting.
Well, but Donald Trump is not the threat to democracy. This machine is.
But very powerful and influential people are able to force the sitting president and elected Democrat presidential nominee to step down from the presidential race, basically against his will, in order to select a presidential nominee they like better. 7th, even just 9 days before announcing that he is stepping down, Joe Biden said this at a rally.
What's Joe Biden going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? Here's my answer. I am running and we're going to win. I'm not going to change that.
It definitely seems pretty clear that Joe Biden is stepping down against his will, that the coup against his presidential run was basically successful. 8th, AOC has since also come out in support of Kamala Harris, writing, "Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States. I pledge my full support to ensure her victory in November. Now more than ever, it is crucial that our party and country swiftly unite to defeat Donald Trump and the threat to American democracy. Let's get to work." 9th, it can be easy to be anxious during uncertain times like this, but we need to remember that no matter what happens in the realm of politics, we serve a God who will continue to be faithful to his people.
You have a president who is a Roman Catholic and who is advocating the insanity at the third level of divine judgment as if this is normal. What you see in our country is the unfolding of the judgment of God in Romans chapter 1. So mark it down. There is no group of senators or congressmen or anybody else who is going to reverse this. This is not reversible. This is divine judgment. Now, in the middle of that, you might be saying to yourself, I hope the Lord remembers his people in the midst of this. I hope he doesn't get so carried away with judgment that he misses us. And that reminds me of the end of the very last book in the Old Testament, the book of Malachi. This is a word of comfort. God is promising judgment from the prophet Malachi. And in verse 16 of Malachi 3, we read this. Then those who feared the Lord spoke to one another. Here we are in the middle of this, talking to each other and saying, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in the future? And that was exactly what the people of Malachi's time were saying. What's going to happen? And the Lord gave attention and heard it. I love this. A book of remembrance was written before him for those who fear the Lord and who esteem his name. They will be mine, says the Lord of hosts, on the day that I prepare my own possession, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. So you will again distinguish between the righteous and the wicked, between one who serves God and one who does not serve him. God has a book, and in that book are the people who belong to him.
And 10th, here are a few random thoughts from me. I was thinking that there are so many things in this world that are simply not in our control, and how while it's still really important to fight hard for the truths we believe in, we need to remember what Jesus taught about not being anxious. Jesus said, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen as a result of what the Democratic Party is doing right now, but I do know that even though there are many evil forces in this world, and even though these evil forces can be extremely powerful, and even though these evil forces oftentimes quote-unquote win in this world, we serve a God who has already won the true and only victory that ultimately matters.
Please don't miss this, okay? We start with the Lord laughing, which again is pretty terrifying. I bring my armies and I'm ready to go to war. I've got a huge army amassed and I'm ready to go to war. You ready to fight? Why are you laughing? But then notice the second part. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, again, what's the terrifying thing that God says to sinful man in his wrath? He says, I've set my king on Zion, my holy hill. There it is. That's the terrifying thing. We bring massive armies. We bring everything that man can think or imagine or invent to bring. And we come to fight with God, and he laughs and says, "My king's in Zion." And that's it. And it's terrifying. God is not threatened by the armies of men. He laughs at them. Psalm 37:13, "But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that his day is coming." Psalm 59:8, "But you, O Lord, laugh at them. You hold all the nations in derision," all of them. Rebellion against God is folly, because men will ultimately obey God either willingly or unwillingly. There is no winning this war, which is why God laughs and holds them in derision. God is not threatened by sinful men.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a deacon, a husband, a father, a software engineer, and an amateur maker of videos. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help me in my mission to spread biblical truth, just subscribe and watch these videos until the end, which will help the YouTube algorithm recommend these videos to more people. I'm committed to using the skills and gifts God has given me to glorify Him and communicate biblical truth, and I would be so grateful if you would come be a part of what I'm building. You can visit my website at joyfulexile.com to learn more about me and what I'm working on. I hope you're having a blessed day. I will see you in the next video, and remember, this world is not our home.